good day everyone, especially to our lovely teacher, Ma'am Janina Sinsuat. We are the reporters of Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, which is the early schooling of Rizal in Binyan, and the Chapter 4 which is Triumphs in Ateneo. Now, I'm going to present the story of Rizal's school day in Binyan. The first school that Rizal was attended in Binyan. He blessed that his father was born nearby Calamba. He attended a private school under Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz, who was reputed to be a good teacher. Rizal was studying in the school from 1870 to 1871. That was full of significant memories. Rizal is a pupil had to study the hard way because he was whipped or spanked by the teacher to make him learn or to behave well.
Early schooling. The Rizal early schooling, the first teacher of Rizal was his mother on her lap. He learned the Latin alphabet and the Catholic prayers.
So, Rizal was instructed by the private tutor such as Maestro Celestino and later Lucas Padua.
After that, his father hired an old man named Leon Monroy. Leon Monroy gives an old Latin lesson to Jose Rizal, and he is also live in Jose's house. But he died after 5 months. But he died in 5 months later.
So, Don Francisco was not discouraged by losing Rizal's private tutor. He heard of a good teacher who was running a private school in Binyan. So, because of his eager to give his son a good education, so he decided to send Jose to the town. And Jose Rizal's mother agreed to his husband's decision. In the age of 9 years old, Jose goes to Binyan on Sunday afternoon, June 1870. And he was accompanied by the Pasiano. So Pasiano is the older brother of Rizal that acted to be his second father.
After 1.5 hours drive, they proceed to their aunt's house when Jose was to lodge. It was almost night when they arrived, and then a moon was about to rise. In that same night, Jose and his cousin named Leandro went sightseeing in the moon. Instead of enjoying the view or the sight, Jose becomes depressed and because of homesickness. And he said, I remember my native town where my sweet mother and father were live.
The first day school in Binyan. Monday in the morning, Pasiano brought Jose to the school. of Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz. The school was in the house of a teacher, which was a small nipa hut about 30 meters from house of auntie of Jose Rizal. Pasiano knew the teacher well because he had been pupil under him before. So, immediately, Jose was assigned his seat in this class, where the teacher asked him. Jose described his teacher in Binyan as follow. He was tall, thin, long-necked man with a sharp nose and a short weapon, by the skillful hands of a Batangueñas.
First school brawl. In the afternoon, in his first day in the school, Jose met the bully, Pedro. Rizal was angry to Pedro for making him fun about his conversation with the teacher in the morning. Then, Jose challenged Pedro to a fight, and Pedro readily accepts it. Pedro thinks that he can easily beat Rizal. The boys are fighting furiously in the classroom. Their classmates are fun watching it. Jose learned the art of wrestling by his uncle Manuel. Rizal defeated Pedro and became popular among his classmates. After the class in the afternoon, Andres Lacundanan challenged Rizal to arm wrestling match. In succeeding days, Rizal has other fights with the boys of Binyan. Painting lesson in Binyan. Near the school where Rizal was studying, the house of an old painter called Juancho. Jose, lured by his love for painting, and Jose spent many leisure hours at painter's studio. Old man gave Jose a free lesson in painting and drawing. Then, Jose and his classmate Jose Guevara became apprentice of the old man and became the favorite painter in the class.
Best student in school. From being bullied in the school, Jose Rizal beat all Binyan boys. He surpassed them all in Spanish, Latin, and other subjects. Some of Rizal's classmates was getting jealous of the intellectual superiority.
They wickedly squealed the teacher whenever Jose had a fight outside the school and told lies about Rizal, and Rizal punished by their teacher.
End of Binyan schooling. So the time came the Maestro Justiniano Aquino Cruz called this in. So Maestro informed Rizal's parents that he could be sent him to Manila for college. December 1871, Jose received letter from his ate, Saturnina. Saturnina Rizal is the eldest sister of Jose, who was truly a caring ate. Informing Rizal of the arrival of the steamer Salim, which would take him from Binyan to Calamba. He left Binyan December 17, 1871, and his first time to rode steamer, and he took care of his father's friend Arturo Cap, in justice to Hero's mother.
When Jose Rizal arrived in his home, he was welcomed by his family. And it was a joyous and memorable Christmas of 1871, despite of his triumphs and fight in Binyan.
After the joyous Christmas brought by Rizal's family, Don Francisco thought that he would send Jose to Manila. June came. Doña Teodora was arrested on a malicious charge. That she added his brother Jose Alberto in trying to poison his wife. Jose Alberto planned to divorce his wife because of her infidelity. But after that, family trouble, it was amicably settled, and Jose Alberto lived again together with his wife.
But the unfaithful wife convinced with the Spanish lieutenant of the Guardia Civil and filed a case against Rizal's mother. He ordered that Doña Teodora will be sent to the province jail in Santa Cruz, capital of Laguna. The lieutenant forced the mother of Jose Rizal to walk on foot from Calamba to Santa Cruz. After she reached the Supreme Court, the Royal Audiencia, and she thinks that someday, with God's help, her innocence would be recognized by the court and justice would be done.
The martyrdom of Gumburja. The Rizal's family had not yet recovered from the painful shock of the mother's imprisonment when another calamity occurred. On January 20, 1872, the Cavite Mutiny,
which is the brief uprising of 2,000 Filipino troops and workers at the Cavite Arsenal, which became the excuse for Spanish repression of the embryonic Philippine nationalist movement,
when flared up, followed by the execution of Father Gomez, Vargas, and Gamora on February 17. Jose's older brother, Porciano, then a student in the College of San Jose, was boarding with Father Burgos, his beloved professor and friend. He was a trusted assistant of Burgos in the fight of Philippinization of the parish. After the execution of the Father Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora, Porciano quit college. He returned to Calamba and related the story of Burgos, martyrdom to his younger brother Jose. Dr. Jose Rizal wrote of Burgos, "He awakened my intellectual and made me understand goodness and justice." His farewell words, "I shall always remember. I have tried to pass on to you what I received from my teacher. Do the same to those who come after you." Jose Rizal was nearly 11 years old when the tragic martyrdom of Gumburja took place. Despite his tender age, he was deeply affected. It was another Spanish injustice, like that done to the own mother. It further buttressed his determination to concentrate his life to combat the evil force of his time.
So now, let's proceed to our chapter 4, which is the triumphs in Ateneo, 1872 to 1877. In this chapter, we're going to talk about how our hero, Jose Rizal, achieved his scholastic triumphs and what happened during his time in Ateneo de Manila. 4 months after the martyrdom of Gumburza, and with Doña Teodora still in prison, Jose, who hadn't yet celebrated his 11th birthday, was sent to Manila. He studied in the Ateneo Municipal, a college under the supervision of the Spanish Jesuits. This college was bitter rival of the Dominican-owned College of San Juan de Letran. It was formerly the Escuela Pia, charity school, a school for poor boys in Manila, which was established by the city government in 1817. When the Jesuits, who had been expelled from the Philippines in 1768, returned to Manila in 1859, they were given the management of the Escuela Pia, whose name was changed to Ateneo Municipal, and later became the Ateneo de Manila. They had lost all their properties during the period of their exile. Hence, they were given a splendid education, so that within a few years, Ateneo acquired wide prestige as an excellent college for the boys.
Rizal entered the Ateneo. On June 10, 1872, Jose, accompanied by Paciano, went to Manila. He took the entrance examination on Christian doctrine and arithmetic and reading at the College of San Juan de Letran and passed them all. He returned to Calamba and stayed few days with his family and attend the town fiesta. His father, who persuaded him to study and Letran, changed his mind and decided to send him to Ateneo instead.
Thus, upon his return to Manila, Jose, again accompanied by Paciano, matriculated at the Ateneo Municipal. At first, Father Magin Ferrando, who was the college registrar, refused to admit him for two reasons. One, he was late for registration, and two, he was sickly and undersized for his age. Rizal was then 11 years old. However, upon the intercession of Manuel Jerez Burgos, nephew of Father Borgon, he was reluctantly accepted at the Ateneo. Jose was the first of his family to adopt the surname Rizal. He registered under this name at the Ateneo because their first family name, Mercado, had become under suspicion of the Spanish authorities. Paciano had used Mercado as his surname at the College of San Jose, and he was known to the authorities as Father Burgos' favorite student and helper. At the time Jose studied in Ateneo, this college was located in Intramuros, within the walls of Manila. He first boarded in the house outside the Intramuros, on Caraballo Street, 25 minutes walk from college. That boarding house was owned by a spinster named Titay, who owed the Rizal family the amount of 300 pesos. Jose boarded with her in order to collect part of the debt.
His system of education. The system of education given by the Jesus of the Ateneo was advanced from that of other colleges that period. It trained the characters of the student by rapid discipline and religion instruction. It promoted physical culture, fine arts, and scientific studies. Aside from that, academic courses leading to the degree of AV, it offered vocational courses in agriculture, commerce, and mechanics. The student heard mass in the morning before beginning of the daily class. Class in every subject was open and closed with prayers.
Students were divided into two groups, namely, the Roman Empire, consisting of the internos or the boarders, and the Carthaginian Empire, composed of the externos, the non-boarders. Each of these empires had its ranks. The best students to each empire was the emperor. The second best student of this empire was called tribune. The third best is the decurion. The fourth best is the centurion, and the fifth best is called the standard bearer or the bearer. Within the empire, the students fought for the positions. Any student could challenge any officer in his empire to answer question on the days of lesson. His opponent could lose his position if he committed 3 mistakes. Any student might be at the end of the line. If he studied hard and was brilliant, he could depose the officers one after another and be an emperor. The two groups, Roman Empire and Carthaginian Empire, were in perpetual warfare for supremacy in the class. They had their distinctive banners, red for the Romans and blue for the Carthaginians. At the beginning of the school term, both banners were used equally in the classroom. Upon the first defeat, the banner of the losing party was transferred to the left side of the room. Upon the second, it was placed in an inferior position of the right side. Upon the third, the inclined flag was placed in the left side. Upon the fourth, the flag was reversed and returned to the right. Upon the fifth, the reverse flag was placed on the left. Upon the sixth, the banner was changed with the figure of a donkey. The Ateneo students in Rizal's time wore a uniform which consists of hemp fabric, trousers, and striped cotton coat. The coat material was called royadillo, which later became famous for its adapt as uniform for the Filipino troops during the days of the First Philippine Republic.
Rizal's first professor in the Ateneo was Father Jose Pence, whom he described a tall thin man with a body straightly stand on forward, a hurried walk, an aesthetic face, severe and inspired, a small deep sunken eyes, a sharp nose that was almost Greek and thin lips forming, an arc whose and fall toward the chin.
Being a newcomer and knowing little Spanish, Rizal was placed at the bottom of the class. He was an externo. Hence, he was an externo. Fucker. Ay, shit. Saan ka naman? Being a newcomer and knowing little Spanish, Rizal was placed at the bottom of the class. He was an externo. Hence, he was assigned to the Carthaginians, occupying the end of the line. After the first week, the frail Calamba boy progressed rapidly. At the end of the month, he became emperor. He was the brightest in the whole class, and he was awarded a prize. How pleased I was, he said, when I won my first prize, a religious picture. That prize was a religious picture. He was proud of it because it was the first prize he ever won in the Ateneo.
Tuwing improve the Spanish, Rizal took private lessons in Santa Isabela College during the noon recess. When other Ateneo students were playing agosiping, he paid 3 pesos for those extra Spanish lessons. But it was money well spent. In the second half of his year in the Ateneo, Rizal did not try hard enough to retain his scholarship supremacy, which he held during the first half of the term. This was because he resent more remarks of his professor. He placed second at the end of the year, although all his grades were still marked excellent.
Summer Vacation 1873. At the end of the school year in March 1873, Rizal returned to Calamba for summer vacation. He didn't particularly enjoy his vacation because his mother was in prison. To cheer him up, his sister Nenang, or Saturnina, brought him to Tanawan with her. This didn't cure his sadness or the melancholy. Without telling his father, he went to Santa Cruz and visited his mother in prison. He told her of his brilliant grades in the Ateneo and tearfully embraced each other. The summer vacation ended. Rizal returned to Manila for his second year term in the Ateneo. This time, he boarded inside Intramuros at number 6 Magdalenas Street. His landlady was an old widow named Doña Pepay, who had a widow daughter and 4 sons.
Second year in Ateneo, 1873 to 1874. Nothing unusual happened to Rizal during the second term in the Ateneo, except that he repented having neglected his studies the previous year, simply because he was offended by the teacher's remarks, and so to regain his lost class leadership. He studied harder. Once more, he became emperor. Some of his classmates were new. Among them were 3 boys from Binyan, who had been his classmates in the school of Maestro Justiniano. At the end of the school year, Rizal received excellent grades in all subjects and gold medal, with such as scholastic honors that triumphantly returned to Calamba in March 1874 for summer vacation.
Prophecy of Mother's Release. Rizal lost no time in going to Santa Cruz in order to visit his mother in the provincial jail. He gladdened Doña Teodora's lonely heart with his scholastic triumphs in Ateneo and with funny tales about his professors and fellow students. The mother was very happy to see her favorite child making such splendid progress in college. In the course of their conversation, Doña Teodora told her son of her dream the previous night. Rizal, interpreting such dream, said to her that he would release from prison in 3 months' time. Doña Teodora smiled, thinking that her son's prophecy was a mere boyish attempt to console her. But Rizal's prophecy became true. Barely 3 months passed, and suddenly Doña Teodora was set free. But that time, Rizal was already in Manila attending his class in the Ateneo. Doña Teodora, happily back in Calamba, was more proud of her son Jose, who was like the youthful Joseph in the Bible. The biblical Joseph was the youngest and the most beloved son of Jacob. His eldest brother were jealous of him because their father showered him with affection. One day, these bad elder brothers sold him into slavery in Egypt. Joseph's master was a prominent Egyptian official. His voluptuous wife fell in love with Joseph, but the latter didn't reciprocate her affection. Angered by the slave's refusal to respond to her desire, she dastardly fabricated a charge against Joseph. Thus, Joseph was put in prison. However, he was able to win his freedom and high royal honors by interpreting correctly the Pharaoh's dream of 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine.
Teenage interest in reading. It was during the summer vacation in 1874 in Calamba when Rizal began to take an interest in reading romantic novels. As a normal teenager, he became interested in love stories and romantic tales. The first favorite novels of Rizal was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. These thrilling novels made a deep impression on him. His boyish imagination was stirred by the suffering of Edmond Dantes, the hero. He personed his spectacular escape from the donjon of Chatua Eve, his finding of the buried treasure on the rocky island of Monte Cristo, and his dramatic revenge on his enemies who wronged him. Rizal read numerous and other romantic novels with deep interest. The reading habit helped to enrich his fecund mind. As a voracious reader, he read not only fiction, but also non-fiction. He persuaded his father to buy him a costly set of Caesar Catu's historical work entitled Universal History. According to Rizal, this valuable work was a great aid in his his studies and enabled him to win more prizes in Ateneo.
Later, Rizal read Travels in the Philippines. Later, Rizal read Travels in the Philippines by Dr. Fyodor Hagor, German scientist traveler who had visited the Philippines. What impressed him in this book were number one, Jagor's keen observation of the defects of Spanish colonization, and number two, his prophecy that someday Spain would lose the Philippines and that America would come to succeed her as colonizer. Third year in Ateneo, 1874 to 1875. In June 1874, Rizal returned to the Ateneo for his junior year. Shortly after the opening of classes, his mother arrived and joyously told him that she was released from prison, just as he predicted during his last visit to her prison cell in Santa Cruz, Laguna. He was happy, of course, to see his mother once more a free woman. However, despite the family happiness, Rizal didn't make an excellent showing in his studies as in the previous year. His grade remained excellent in all subjects, but he won only one medal in Latin. He failed to win the medal in Spanish because his spoken Spanish was not fluently sonorous. He was beaten by a Spanish who naturally could speak Spanish with fluency and with right accentuation. At the end of the school year, March 1875, Rizal returned to Calamba for summer vacation. He himself was not impressed by his scholastic work. He said, "I returned dissatisfied to my hometown."
Fourth year in Ateneo, in 1875 to 1876. After a refreshing and happy summer vacation, Rizal went back to the Manila for his fourth year courses. On June 14, 1875, he became an internee in the Ateneo. One of his professors this time was Father Francisco Sanchez, a great educator and scholar. He inspired young Rizal to study harder and write poetry. He became an admirer and friend of the slender Calamba lad, whose God-given genius he saw and recognized since the first meeting on his part Rizal had the highest affection and respect for Father Sanchez, whom he is considered his most beloved professor in the Ateneo.
Years later, Rizal wrote of Father Sanchez in glowing terms, showing his affection and gratitude. He described this Jesuit professor as a model of rectitude, solicitude, and devotion to his pupils' progress. Inspired by Father Sanchez, Rizal resumed his studies with vigor and zest. He topped all his classmates in all subjects and won 5 medals at the end of the school term. He returned to Calamba for his summer vacation, March 1876, and proudly offered his 5 medals and excellent ratings to his parents. He was extremely happy for he was able to repay his father's somewhat for his sacrifices. Last year in Ateneo, 1876 to 1877. After the summer vacation, Rizal returned to Manila in June 1876 for his last year in Ateneo. His studies continue to farewell. As a matter of fact, he excelled in all his subjects. The most brilliant Atenean of his time he was truly the pride of the Jesuits. Rizal finished his last year in the Ateneo in a blaze of glory. He obtained the highest grades in all subjects: philosophy, physics, biology, chemistry, language, mineralogy, and etc. Extracurricular activities in Ateneo. Rizal unsure pass in academic triumphs was a mere bookworm. He was active in extracurricular activities, an emperor inside the classroom. He was a campus leader outside. He was an active member, later secretary of a religion society. The Marian congregation, he was accepted as member of this sodality not only because of his academic brilliance, but also because of his devotion of Our Lady. Only Athenians who distinguish themselves in class for their piety and good scholarship could be member of this society. Rizal was also a member of the Academy of Spanish Literature and the Academy of Natural Sciences. These academies were exclusive socletes in the Ateneo, to which only Athenians who were gifted in literature and sciences could qualify for membership. In his leisure hours, Rizal cultivated his literary talents under the guidance of Father Sanchez. Another professor, Father Jose Villaclara, advised him to start communing with the muses and pay more attention to more practical studies, such as philosophy and natural sciences. Rizal didn't heed his advice. He continued to solicit Father Sanchez's help in improving his poetry. Aside from writing poetry, he devoted his spare time in fine arts. He studied painting under the famous Spanish painter Agustin Saez, and sculpture under Romualdo de Jesus, noted Filipino, and Romualdo de Jesus is a Filipino sculptor. Both art masters honor him with their affection, for he was talented. A talented pupil. Furthermore, Rizal to develop his weak body, engaged in gymnastics and fencing. He thereby continued the physical training he began under his sports-minded Uncle Manuel, or should we call Tio Manuel.
Sculptural work in Ateneo. Rizal impressed his Jesus professor in the Ateneo with the artistic skill. One day, he carved an image of our Virgin Mary on a piece of baticuling Philippine hardwood. With his pocket knife, the Jesus Father were amazed the beauty and grace of the image.
Father Leonard, impressed by Rizal's sculptural talent, requests him to carve for him an image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Young Rizal complied, and within a few days, he presented it to Father Leonard. The old Jesus was highly pleased and profusely thanked the teenage sculptor. He intended to take the image with him to Spain, but being an absent-minded professor, he forgot to do so. The Ateneo boarding student placed it to the door of the dormitory, and there it remained for nearly 20 years, reminding all Ateneans of Dr. Rizal, the greatest alumnus of their alma mater. This image played a significant part of Rizal's last hours at Fort Santiago. Anecdote on Rizal, the Atenean. One of Rizal's contemporaries in the Ateneo was Felix M. Rojas. He related an incident of Rizal's school days in the Ateneo which reveals the hero's resignation to pain and forgiveness. One day, many Ateneans, including Rizal, were studying their lesson at the study hall. Two Ateneans named Manzano and Lesaca quarreled and violently hurled books at each other. Rizal, who was busy at his desk poring over his lessons, was hit in the face by one of the thrown books. He didn't raise a cry of protest, although his wounded face was bleeding. His classmates brought him to the infirmary where he had to undergo medical treatment for several days. After the incident, he continued to attend his classes, feeling neither bitterness nor rancor toward the guilty party. Another anecdote on Rizal, the Atenean. The Atenean was related by Manuel Jerez Burgos, in whose house Rizal boarded shortly before he became an internee in the Ateneo. This anecdote illustrates Rizal's predilection to help the helpless at the risk of his own life. One Thursday afternoon, being vacation day, the boys flew their kites from the azote. Young Rizal then was busy reading a Spanish book of fables at the window. After a while, he heard Julio Melisa from Iloilo, one of the smallest border, crying because his kite was caught by the vines growing on the belfry of the Manila Cathedral, which was near the boarding house. The bigger boys were laughing, making fun of Julio's misfortune. Rizal closed the book he was reading and told Julio not to cry, for he would try to retrieve the kite. True to his promise, he courageously climbed the high cathedral tower and successfully recovered the kite.
Poems written in Ateneo. It was Doña Teodora who first discovered the political genius of her son. And it was also Poems written in Ateneo. It was Doña Teodora who first discovered the poetical genius of her son. And it was also she who first encouraged him to write poems. However, it was Father Sanchez who inspired Rizal to make full use of his God-given genius in poetry and improve the letter's poetical arts by opening his mind to the enriching influences of words literature. The first poem that Rizal probably wrote during his days in the Ateneo was Mi Primera Inspiration. My first inspiration, which was dedicated to his mother on her birthday. It is said that he wrote it before he was 14 years old. That is in the year 1874. Before his year, he did not write poetry because there was a gloom in his heart owing to to his mother's imprisonment. Upon the release of his mother in 1870, his poetic heart began to sing with ecstasy and joy.
In 1875, inspired by Father Sanchez, he wrote more poems such as Felicitación or the Facilitation, El Embarque, Himno a la Flota de Magallanes, The Departure, Hymn to Magellan's Fleet, Yes Español, El Cano, El Primero en dar la vuelta al mundo, and his Spanish, El Cano, the first to circumnavigate the world. El Combat or Vistonzo, Terror de Holo, the battle or Vistonzo, Terror of Holo. In 1876, Rizal wrote poems on various topics such as religion, education, childhood memories, and war. They were as follows. La Tragedia de San Gustaque, the tragedy of Saint Eustace. This poem recounts the tragic story of the Saint Eustace. The number 2 is the Un recuerdo a mi pueblo, in memory of my town. A tender poem in honor of Calamba, the hero's natal town. Alianza, number 3 is the Alianza Intima entre la religión y la buena educación. Intimate alliance between the religion and the good education. Number 4 is the por la educación recibe lustre la patria. Through education, the country receives light. Number 5 is the el cautiverio y el triunfo. The batalla de Lucena y presión de Boabdel. The captivity and the triumph. Battle of Lucena and the imprisonment of the Boabdil. This martial poem describes the defeat and the capture of the Boabdil, last Moorish Sultan of Granada. The number 6 is the La Entrada Triunfal de los Reyes Católicos en Granada. The triumphal entry of the Catholic monarch into Granada. This poem relates the victorious entry of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella into Granada, last Moorish stronghold in Spain.
In 1877, he wrote more poems. It was his last year in the Ateneo. Among the poems written this year were
El Heroísmo de Colón, the heroism of the Columbus. These poems praises Columbus, the discoverer of Americas. Number 2 is the Colonie Juan II, Columbus and John II. The second. This poem relates how King John II of Portugal missed fame and riches by his failure to finance the expedition of Columbus to the New World. Number 3 is the Gran Consuelo and La Mayor de Desdica. The great comfort in great misfortune. This is the legend in a verse of the voyage of Columbus. Number 4 is the un dialogo alusivo a la despedida de los colialas. A farewell dialogue of the students. This was the last poem written by Rizal in Ateneo. It is a poignant poem of farewell to his classmate.
My first inspiration. In his poem, Mi Primera Inspiration, he facilitated his mother on her birthday expressing his filial affection in sonorous verse. Rizal's poem in education. Although Rizal was merely a teenager, he had a very high regard for education. He believed in the significant role which education plays progress and welfare of a nation.
And his poem is which is the intimate alliance between the religion and good education. Rizal showed the importance of religion in education. To him, education without God is not a true education.
Rizal's religious poem. During his student day, Rizal expressed the devotion to the Catholic faith. One of his religious poems he wrote was a brief ode al Niño Jesus, the child Jesus, and his another religious poem. It is La Virgin Maria, to the Virgin Mary. First romance of Rizal. Rizal was 16 years old when he experienced his first romance with Segunda Katigbak, a pretty 14 years old Batangueña from Leyva. Rizal came to know Segunda more intimately, visit his weekly to Corcodia College, where his sister Olympia studying there, and Olympia was a close friend of Segunda. Jose Rizal and Segunda, after friend, loved each other. There was indeed love at first sight, but Segunda was already engaged to be married to Manuel Luz. The last day they talked to each other Thursday in December 1877 when Christmas vacation was about to begin. Rizal visited Segunda to say goodbye because he was going to the Calamba. Following day, he learned that steamer carrying Segunda and her family would not anchor at Calamba because of the winds and it would stop in Binyan. So Rizal waited at the road, Segunda smiling and waving her handkerchief. When he saw Rizal and fast forward, he met his first romance. But that lovely girl was lost him to forever, because Segunda returned to Leyva and married Manuel Luz.
That's all for today, and we hope that you all understand our topic. And by the way, we are your reporters.
I am Monique Tao from BSA Agronomy.
And I am Nurhaya B. Alamansa from BS Ed English.
Thank you.